शृणुयाम देवाः भद्रं पश्येमाक्षभिर्यजत्राः स्थिरैरङ्गैस्तुष्टुवागुंसस्तनूभिः यशेम देवहितं यदायुः स्वस्ति न इन्द्रो वृद्धश्रवाः स्वस्ति नः पूषा विश्ववेदाः स्वस्ति नस्तार्क्ष्यो अरिष्टनेमिः स्वस्ति नो बृहस्पतिर्दधातु ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। Ashwalayana is asking Lord Brahma, teach me Brahma Vidya. That is the question. Teach me Brahma Vidya is the question. For which the answer he gives is, you can know that Brahma Vidya can be known only by the three: Shraddha, Bhakti and Dhyana. By the three disciplines of Shraddha, Bhakti, Dhyana, Yoga, Davaihi, you know this Brahma Vidya. Not by activity, nor by progeny, nor by wealth. By renunciation, some attained immortality. Shraddha is a conviction. Shraddha is a conviction about the unknown. That is Shraddha. Bhakti is a surrender to that. Bhakti is a surrender to that unknown. That is Bhakti. Shraddha, Bhakti, and then comes Dhyana Yoga. Dhyana Yoga, the yoga of by meditation. So by Shraddha, Bhakti and meditation. Shraddha is the capacity to reflect upon what the Shastras have said. That is Shraddha. Shraddha is the intellect's capacity to reflect, assimilate, understand what to hear from the Guru, what to hear from the Shastras. It is Shraddha that helps you to absorb the knowledge itself. Without Shraddha, you will not be able to absorb it. When I say you will not be able to absorb it, to understand the words, you don't need Shraddha. Carefully follow. To understand the words, Shraddha is not required. All that is needed is a good ear, hearing capacity, language. If all this is there, you can hear what the Shastras say, what the Guru says. And you also would be able to repeat what the words of the Shastra is, and yet the words of the Shastra, the words of the Guru would not have touched you at all. You can hear, you can understand, you can repeat, and yet you will be completely untouched by the words of the Guru and the Shastras. How is it possible? It is possible. Logic may not be able to explain it, but then in practical life, out of 100, 98 belongs to this. 98 belongs to this category only, where they know the words, but the words don't touch their personality at all. Why? Because lack of Shraddha. So, very important thing to have from the beginning is Shraddha. The same idea in the Bhagavad Gita he quotes anytime, any number of times I have said this. Shraddhavan labate jnanam. Any number of times I have quoted this Bhagavad Gita statement. Shraddhavan labate jnanam. Where is it from? From Kaivalya. For he says it very clearly. Shraddha bhakti dhyana yoha davaihi. And he doesn't give any logic and reason and explanation how all this is going to help. He only says this is the path to Brahma Vidya. You want Brahma Vidya? Yes, this is the path. What is the path? The path of Shraddha. Bhakti is the mind surrender. Shraddha is the ability to listen to the Shastras and reflect upon it. Minus bhakti, you will be able to understand it. Now, minus bhakti, you will be able to understand it. You will be a very dry philosopher, as it were. The personality will be a very dry philosopher. Understanding will happen, acceptance wouldn't happen. So it is bhakti that brings in the acceptance to the understanding. That's where he says the blend of the head and the heart. The blend of the head and the heart. Somebody will say understanding is enough. Somebody will say understanding doesn't work out. Bhakti alone is enough. He says both has to blend. Because understanding removes the ajnana. Ignorance is removed. A mere intellectual understanding, the ignorance gets removed, but acceptance of that understanding is possible only through bhakti. In fact, it is bhakti that removes doubts. It is bhakti that removes doubts. How much ever there is logic and reason and understanding and all that, at some point of time, the understanding doesn't give any, the understanding doesn't remove the doubts. It is bhakti that comes and removes the doubts. Shraddha. So Shraddha, you can broadly call it as Ajnana Nivritti. Bhakti, you can call it as Samshaya Nivritti. Doubts gets cleared only through bhakti. Where there is no bhakti, what will be there? Doubts. And those doubts obstruct the wisdom. It is the doubts that obstruct the wisdom itself. If mere understanding can take us to wisdom, we all should have been wise by now. Because for the amount of Shravana we have done, for the amount of analysis that we have gone through, the amount of understanding we have got, we should have become at least enlightened or very close to enlightenment. But that doubt. What is that doubt? Bhakti removes that. Bhakti removes that doubt. How does bhakti removes the doubt? Bhakti is a trust. Shraddha, carefully follow the difference between Shraddha and Bhakti. Both has an element of faith only. Shraddha has an element of intellect. Bhakti has the element of mind. Both plays the role of, both has the element of faith in it. Shraddha also we say faith. Bhakti also, just now I said Bhakti also has faith in her. Then what are the two different? What is the difference between the two? Shraddha is the faith in association with the instrument of buddhi. Bhakti is the faith that is associated with the instrument of mind. For the intellect, it is ajnanam. For the mind, it is samshayam. For it is the mind that has doubts. I am fully understanding and I am also logically convinced. But for that, you can't read one more book. To remove that but, you can't read one more book. Bhakti becomes an integral. Bhakti becomes very important there. So he says Shraddha and Bhakti. A person who has this Shraddha and Bhakti, what happens? Where there is the blend of head and heart, what happens is there is a concentration meditation. There is a concentration, there is a meditation. So by blending head and heart through meditation, you realize the self. This is the path of Brahma Vidya. Now, to put it very simply, what is the path of Brahma Vidya? The blend of head and heart resulting in concentration, meditation leads to unfoldment. And that unfoldment is Brahma Vidya. Not by karma, not by progeny, not by wealth. Tyage naike amritatva manashuhu. A few attain this only through tyaga, renunciation. This is the beauty. Renouncing what? Renunciation. He is talking about renunciation. Renouncing what? Renouncing activity. Renouncing activity. Renouncing progeny. Renouncing wealth. By renunciation, some attained immortality. Abdina, there are other methods, sir. Some attained immortality through this tyagana. It means there is some other method also. No. In English, we have to it has to be translated like that in English. It is a difficulty. The actual literal meaning of it is, know this by Shraddha, Bhakti and Dhyana, and this Brahma Vidya by Shraddha, Bhakti, Dhyana is what you have to do. What you have to do, Shraddha, Bhakti, Dhyana. What you should not do, have attachment to activity, progeny, wealth. By not having attachment to activity, progeny, wealth, and by having Shraddha, Bhakti, Dhyana, you attain Brahma Vidya. Are you able to follow? So, renunciation means that which you let go of. Renunciation means that which you let go of. What is it that you cannot let go of? You cannot let go of activity. You cannot let go of the mind's attachment to activity. You cannot let go. When you say you cannot let go activity, what it means is, refer 3rd chapter, Bhagavad Gita. Nahi kaschit kshanam api jatu tishtatya karma krit. Akarma krit. You can't be inactive for a split second. Therefore, you will be in action. Maybe useful action, maybe useless action. Maybe useful action, maybe a useless action, but nevertheless, you have to be in action. You cannot, from useful action, you may shift to useless action. After getting tired and fatigued and bored with useless action, you will want to do some useful action. And the very fact that you want to do useful action again causes tiredness, fatigue. So from useful action, you move to useless action. So you will be oscillating between useful action and useless action, but you cannot let go of activity. So first thing he says is tyagena nakarmana, not by action. Not by action means let go of Let go of the craving for action. Let go of the attachment to action. To put it very simply, why a human being is so obsessed with activity, so possessed with activity. A human being is possessed with activity because either he sees activity as the means to fulfill the desires, or activity prevents him from becoming insane. Activity prevents you from becoming insane. That is why after a while people say, "Edavadhu vela irundha kudungo sir. Something to do. I want something to do. I want to keep myself occupied." You can't let go of activity. You have to keep myself occupied. Why do you have to keep yourself occupied? Don't ask. I have to keep myself occupied. Why? Because the inactivity leads to insanity. So to prevent you from becoming insane, you have to keep yourself into some action. Yeah, that is why even in prison, they make them work from morning till evening. Because if activity is not given, it's not that you'll be happy and peaceful. If activity is not given, if activity is not there, it leads to insanity, depression, suicide, all that. That is why you have to keep yourself doing some activity. The other reason why people are involved in activity is action is the tool by which desires can be fulfilled. Another reason for people to be in action. Only if I do something, I will get it. No. How will I get? Therefore, I have to do something in order to get. What to get? What I want, which is what is nothing but fulfillment of desires. Here, action is not a tool for fulfillment of desires. Action is not to keep your sanity going. By renouncing activity. By renouncing activity means by renouncing the wrong things that drives the activity. When all this is removed, whatever remains is action without actor. Action without doership. You remove all this. Whatever I said, you remove all this, action will continue. But what will not be there? The doership will not be there. So, by renouncing activity means what? Renouncing the doership. By renouncing the doership. Activity is that which keeps you alive. Keeps you alive means keeps the ego alive by proving that I am useful, I am also meaningful, my existence also has some purpose, some meaning. Doership. Are you able to follow? Renouncing na karmana. Na karmana. Are you okay till now? The last reason, na karmana, is reference to unselfish activities. Na karmana, in the Vedic time, it is seen as the yajna karmas, the ritualistic actions. So, ritualistic actions mean unselfish actions. Ritualistic action means sakama karma, or either for a fulfillment of a particular desire or a welfare activity. Not by unselfish activity, you will gain Brahma Vidya. by unselfish activity, what will you gain? Punya you will gain and you will go to heaven. Brahma Vidya you will not. Brahma Vidya you will not get. Therefore, you need to understand action when he says renounce by not by activity means you need to understand what are all is implied behind the statement. He simply says not by activity. That's all. Are you able to follow? Na karmana, na prajaya. Prajaya means progeny. Praja means progeny. What is the closest to you? I said this last week also. Last class also I said this. What is the closest to you? The closest for vast majority is the praja, the progeny, the children. They are the closest. Yeah. That is why wherever you go, whatever you do, one part of your personality will be circling around the children only. Wherever you go, whatever you do, yeah. From Chennai to San Francisco to Mars, Pluto, if they go and occupy in some other Milky Way, we will go there also. Circle. The mind, one part of you always will be circling around your children. Why they always circle around them? Because they are part of you. They are your own. Yeah, the very sight of them gives that. The very thought of the children, the very sight of the children brings about that the joy. The belief about progeny is this. The belief about progeny is after death, if you don't have children to do karmas for you, you will go to hell. Therefore, you need to have children, and the children, the karma they will perform for you after you die is what will transport you to heaven. It's a belief. It's a superstitious belief. It is not that they do karma and you go to heaven. Based on your karma only you go to hell or heaven. If they do karma, they go to hell or heaven. What have you got to do with them? They have got nothing to do with you. You have got nothing to do with them. இதெல்லாம் ஒரு temporary transaction. அவ்வளவுதான். There is no reality to all these things. But then there was this even today there is this deep-rooted belief. Even today there is this deep-rooted belief. And progeny, at least nowadays it's okay. Yeah. Previously it has to be a boy, definitely. Not a. And progeny also, it has to be a son, not a daughter. Huh? Even today, my mother keeps saying this, My grandmother, that is her mother-in-law. My grandmother, which is my mother's mother-in-law. Huh? Threatening her from the 3rd month. It has to be a boy. Now, how can she decide whether it is going to be a boy or the girl? It has to be a boy. It has to be a boy. Why? Because only when the boy comes, yeah. See, useless family anyway. There is no need to continue. Family. What is the need to continue that lineage? And then came Aravindan. Wow. What you, I tell you. That's what he says. Na prajaya. Nor by, nor by, not by progeny. Not by progeny. It's not that they are going to do something and that will take you to moksha. See, why he is saying all this is, you need to be very clear. You have been brainwashed so much in all these classes that moksha means self-realization, God realization. Even without knowing what it is, you will mechanically repeat it. Huh? In the time of the Upanishads, there was a huge, even today there is a huge confusion as to what is the definition of moksha. What is moksha? I have said this also before. In the book Sarva Vedanta Siddhanta Sara Sangraha, that man gives 33 definitions for moksha. It means 33 different schools, 33 different ideas behind moksha. Now you read all that, you will be utterly confused as to what is. In fact, world is one. Moksha seems to be world one. There is only one world and one samsara. There is no 33 different types of samsara. But moksha is this moksha is so elusive. This moksha is so confusing. He wants to establish very clearly what is moksha. Adhan Kaivalya Upanishad. He wants to establish what is moksha. They were assuming Swarga as moksha. They were assuming Swarga means moksha. See, Swarga, what is Swarga means? I have said this any number of times. Swarga means a happy, peaceful life. Happy, peaceful life. Happy, peaceful life. Where you are all right, your partner is all right, your children are all well settled. Even though COVID-19 is happening, still nobody is affected by that. All are, this is Swarga. This is heaven. So people think moksha means a better life. Now, what in Kaivalya Upanishad he wants to establish is what is moksha? What is moksha? What is liberation? Not that which you get through activity, because activity gets you punya karma. Not by progeny, because progeny is bandha only. Where is liberation? Progeny is bandha. Dhanena. Nor by na karmana, na prajaya, na dhanena. Na karmana, na prajaya, na dhanena. Na means is negating. Not. When all that is valuable to you is negated, all that is closest to you is negated, what is left behind is? Whatever is left behind is Brahman. What is it that cannot be told? But they say all this, how to get there, Shraddha Bhakti Dhyana. What all you should know, what you should do. Ashwalana is asking, I want Brahma Vidya. Brahma is saying, if you want Brahma Vidya, you should do something, you should not do something. You should do something. What you should do? Shraddha Bhakti Dhyana you should do. What you should not do? Karma, Praja, Dhana. By renouncing these, Tyagena Eke, some, a few attained immortality. Some na, a few attained immortality. Eke means a few. A few attained immortality. What does the few means? Till date, the enlightened can be counted in fingers, no? Today, everybody claims they are enlightened. After a point, you really don't know who's enlightened, who is not enlightened. Is so, AK, a few has attained immortality by doing this and not doing this. Activity, progeny, wealth, all this are seen as security to life. Activity, progeny, carefully follow. Activity, progeny, wealth, all this are seen as security. It will make you secure. Wealth will make you secure in this life. Punya karma after life. Son will do karmas for you and ensure that you can enjoy that life. Are you able to follow how the mind worked, how the mind is working? So progeny, wealth and karma is seen as that which gives security. All that which you believe that gives you security, you need to renounce. That is the way to moksha. What you think will give you security, you need to renounce that. How would you renounce that? Because the Shastra has said that is not the way to Brahma Vidya, and in fact it only leads to more and more bandha, and you have Shraddha in the words of, you have Shraddha and Bhakti in the words of the Shastra, therefore you renounce. Anybody who has this Shraddha and Bhakti in the words of Shastra, in the words of the Guru, and have renounced that which gives them security, has attained immortality. Avladha in the mantra. Are you able to follow now? Again I repeat. Whoever had the Shraddha and Bhakti in the words of the Guru and the Shastra and let go of that which gives them security. Whoever does it, a few did it, he says. A few did it, tyagena eke. A few did it, and those few attained amritatvam anushuhu. They attained. They attained what? Amritatvam, immortality. How did they attain immortality now? By having Shraddha and Bhakti in the words of the Shastra, and they let go of that which gave them security. What is it that gives you security? Progeny, wealth, activity. Clear? Sir, last moment varaikum I have to be active and today I should die. Clear? Last day varaikum I should be active, and today I should die, sir. Another, even if something happens, I have enough insurance and backup. So I need not trouble anybody. Security. Are you able to follow? What all we feel that is going to give us security? Then children. How children give security? The fact that my children is somewhere existing itself is the security. It is not that they have to be in, it's not that they have to be in front of your eyes. Somewhere they are there and peaceful and happy is that which gives you peace and security. Now, all that gives you security, all that gives you peace is not reliable. So you let go of that which is not reliable. Please understand, when we say it is not reliable, we are not insulting or demeaning them as negative. We are not saying they are all wrong, negative. By nature, they cannot give you security. Okay, you are the grandson, no? Now, what security your grandfather is getting because of you now? Is there anything that is happening? Because you don't even remember. You are so caught up in your children, you don't even remember. Are you able to follow? Same thing is what is going to happen to. Same thing is what is going to happen to you. Yeah. See, when my father was alive, his father and mother photograph used to be in the house. Yeah. After my father said bye-bye and left, I packed up those two photographs and my father's photograph has come onto the wall now. After a while, what is going to happen? Somebody will say bye-bye to that photograph and my photograph will go. But everybody thinks what? Security. Their photograph will be there permanently. If only you can realize, just as that is gotten rid of, you also will be gotten rid of. Are you able to follow? That is what is known as unreliable. Unreliable to what? Unreliable to the mental peace and happiness. They are not the cause for peace and happiness. They are not the cause for security. This is as far as wealth, progeny, and activity are concerned. So renounce that. So renouncing what? Now what do you renounce? What should you renounce? What gives you security? You renounce that. In fact, the Upanishadic seeker have renounced that and started walking in that unknown, risky territory. He has taken that plunge into that. He has taken that plunge to walk into that unknown territory. He has taken that plunge. He has taken the risk. He has taken the risk. He has taken the plunge. To that person who has already taken that plunge, the Guru is saying, don't worry, you are on the right track. By this method only, you will attain Brahma Vidya. By this method only, you will attain Brahma Vidya. You are on the right track. Are you able to follow? Otherwise, there is no need to talk about renunciation to a person who is already renounced. We say a Upanishadic seeker have very high levels of renunciation. Now, why do you have to talk about renunciation to them? In fact, renunciation will be talked about to them only. Because for a person who is attached, see, for a person to whom colors will be taught, to a blind person, colors will be taught to whom? To a person who is already seeing those colors. To a blind person, it doesn't really matter whatever you talk. That is why to a blind person talking about renunciation and all is, to a blind person talking about renunciation is redundant. It's not that meaningful. But to them it is very meaningful. Therefore you find Shraddha, Bhakti, Dhyana Yoga Davaihi. Shraddha, Bhakti, Dhyana Yoga Davaihi. Na karmana na prajaya danena refers to the sannyasa. Refers to the detached state. Na karmana na prajaya danena tyagena ike amrutatva manashuhu. So, to put it very simply, to gain Brahma Vidya, leave the comforts and move into the uncharted, unwalked path. What will guide you there? Shraddha and Bhakti will guide you there. Are you able to follow? leave the comforts, leave all that is giving security, leave all that which you are holding on to, and take a risk and walk the path of unknown. And when you are walking that path of unknown, what will guide you there? The Shraddha and Bhakti. So Ashvalayana, the method to gain Brahma Vidya is what? Leave the comforts of the known completely. Urgalanga, Urgalingalna, don't try. Leave all that and take the plunge. And when you take the plunge, you don't ask immediate afternoon will it happen. And maybe you have to take the plunge for few janmas. The plunge has to continue. I have taken the plunge, sir. Afternoon, what will happen? Doubt will start coming back again. Some shaya will come. Are you able to follow? Now you take the plunge. When you take the plunge means you never go back into that. That is what plunge means. How long? That we don't know. But the seeker is ready to go ahead. Are you able to follow? This is the path to Brahma Vidya. This is the path to Brahma Vidya, Ashvalayana. This is mantra number 2. Now we go to mantra 3. Now I am reading mantra 3. Parena nakan nihitam guhayam vibhrajate yadhyatayo vishanti vedanta vijnana sunischitartha sannyasa yoga dyataya shuddha sattvaha. Beautiful mantra again. Parena nakan nihitam guhayam vibhrajate yadhyatayo vishanti vedanta vijnana sunischitartha sannyasa yoga dyataya shuddha sattvaha. That which is higher than heaven, seated in the cave, shining resplendent, that the ascetics enter. Those ascetics are well established in Vedantic wisdom. Those ascetics are well established in Vedantic wisdom to become pure sattva through yoga of renunciation. What is he saying in this? Another beautiful mantra. What is he saying in this? That which is higher than the heaven. That which is higher than the heaven. What is it that is higher than the heaven? Up to heaven we can conceive. Up to heaven we can conceive. More than that we cannot conceive. More than that we cannot conceive. So he says higher than heaven, seated in the cave. Nihitam guhayam. Parena nakam nihitam guhayam. The word nakam itself is a very beautiful word. And they go into they go into a beautiful analysis of the word nakam itself. The Sanskrit word nakam, adike meaning irukku. Ka akam, na akam. Ka akam, na akam. Na akam. Ka means pleasure. Ka means pleasure, happiness. Akam means not pleasure. Not pleasure na pain. Not pleasure na pain. Nakam, na akam. Painless pleasure, na pure pleasure. Pure, it's a derivative. Higher than heaven. Why they say higher than heaven? Even in heaven, 95% pleasure, but 5% of pain. Heaven lo kuda 100% pleasure kadayadu. 95% of pleasure and 5% of pain. Now don't ask how do you know this numbers allama. Arbitrarily we give this number. I also don't. More numbers. 95% pleasure with 5% pain. Because after pleasure, you have to come back to this loka. After pleasure, you have to come back to this loka. As you are having an ice cream, it is pleasurable. After half an hour, that pleasure goes. What comes is extra 1 kilo in the body, the pain. Are you able to follow? Therefore, he says, parena nakam, higher than the heaven. Are you able to follow? Higher than the heaven. Higher than the heaven means where the possibility of pain is completely eradicated. The possibility of pain is completely eradicated. Parena nakam, that which is higher than heaven. Seated in the cave. Seated in the cave. Now, what is seated in the cave means? See, throughout Bhagavad Gita, he keeps saying this. The cave, the cave, the cave. What is seated in the cave? Seated in the cave means the core. You need to explore and find out. Cave is that which is not. Cave is that which is not available easily. You have to. Cave means it needs exploration. Seated in the cave means that which is found through exploration. That which is found through exploration. I will explore provided you show it to me. Now, after that, where is the exploration? Are you able to follow? That's why people say, sir, show me there is God and then I will believe. How is it possible? Because to see God, so much of tapas and shraddha and bhakti is required. And that fellow so casually says, show me God. Once you can show me God, I will believe in God, which is not. Which doesn't work at all. Are you able to follow? Seated in the cave means that which is explored and found. Seated in the cave, that which is explored and found. Now, what can explore? It is the intellect that explores. Exploration is not done by the body. Exploration is not done by the mind. Exploration is done by the intellect. Because exploration means plunging into the unknown. What is exploration? Moving into the unknown. Enquiry, questioning, reasoning, pursuing the unknown is what is known as exploration. So cave implies seated in the cave means that which is discovered through exploration. Are you okay till now? Exploration means risk. Exploration is a risk. What is the risk in exploration? You may end up failing. Exploration means there is no guarantee for result. There is no guarantee for success. Failure and result kandipa varlam. Success can come. Possibility of success is less. Guarantee of failure is more. Are you able to follow? This is why people find it very difficult to. Why they find it very difficult to explore is because of this reason. Not only it looks like not only the possibility of failure, it looks like waste of time and effort. Because in exploration, if it is successful, it is good. If it is not successful, the time, the effort, the money, everything goes waste. Therefore, people do not explore. Buddhi understands and explores. How Buddhi understands and explores? I have said this any number of times. I remember I did this verse for 3 classes I did. That's a different story altogether. What is that verse? Verse number 40, chapter 2. Neha vikramanashosti pratyavayo na vidyate swalpamapyasya dharmasya trayate mahato bayat. Failure is the illusion, Arjuna. Failure is an illusion of life. There is no failure. There is no failure here. Avikramana nasha. It is not there at all. Kramanasham. It doesn't exist. Are you able to follow? I tell you, that one verse is enough to. In fact, if you understand that verse, you will be able to explore. Because in that verse he says, verse number 40, chapter 2, Bhagavad Gita, refer. Neha vikramanashosti pratyavayo na vidyate swalpamapyasya dharmasya. Swalpam dharma. Little bit of this dharma you practice, Arjuna. Trayate mahato bayat. Very fear. What all you thought as great fears, what all you thought as unconquerable, simply evaporates. Therefore, what do you understand? Failure as a possibility. Failure as a possibility do not exist. Effort never goes waste, full stop. Law of karma, that's what. Effort never goes waste. Why I am saying all this? Seated in the cave. Seated in the cave na exploration. Exploration means the intellect. And the mind comes up with the doubt and it will not allow the intellect to explore. What is the doubt? The doubt of, will it work? How do I know? What are the indicators, sir, that it is working? In the kelvi ketadunale ella indicators pochu. Yeah. The fact that you asked this question itself, it means the verse is not understood. Neha vikramanashosti pratyavayo avidyate swalpam. I tell you that word. Swalpam apyasya dharmasya. See, here only with some shraddha and bhakti, if you have practiced, you will know how this verse is the gospel truth. Swalpam apyasya dharmasya trayate mahato bayat. It protects you from great fears. You are saved. Great fears you are protected from. You are protected from great fears. That person who has this exploration finds it seated in the Guhayam. Nihitam Guhayam. Seated in the, he's fixed there. He's permanently seated there. All that you have to do is what? Explore and go there, and you will find him seated. And where is this seat? What is the cave? You are that cave. The personality layers is the cave. You have to explore through your personality layers and find it out. Cave na, which cave na, GPS poda mudiyadhu. Yeah. Which cave na, you can't ask for GPS and go and explore there. You are that cave. Your personality layers is the cave which you have to explore. What are the personality layers? Cross body, subtle body, causal body, the pancha koshas, or waker, dreamer, deep sleeper. Anything you take doesn't matter. But you need to explore all these and then go deeper. In that depth, you will find out. What will you find out in the depth? In the depth, you will find out that you are. In the depth, you will find out. What will you find? Brahman seated. Brahman seated. Yeah. And when he is seated, he will be sitting there, smiling, welcoming you. Come, 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 come. I have been waiting for you for so long. Finally you have come. Seated in the cave. Seated in the cave na edo irutta irukum. Cave na it is dark, no? Shining, resplendent. Seated in the cave na, you may think it is dark, and you have to carry a torchlight also along with you. Otherwise, how will you know that he is sitting in the cave? Shining, resplendent. That the ascetics enter. Ascetics means yatayaha. Yatayaha means who are the ascetics? Connected to the previous mantra. Connected to the previous mantra. Who are the ascetics? The ascetics from the previous mantra. They enter. To ensure that you don't misunderstand them, to ensure that you don't get wrong understanding, he says, ascetics na Vedanta Vijnana Sunischita Arthaha. Look at that word. Ascetics na ellarum ascetics கிடையாது. வேதாந்த விஞ்ஞானம் இருந்தாதான் ascetics. வேதாந்த விஞ்ஞான சுனிச்சிதார்த்தாக. அதுவும் எப்படி இருக்குது அந்த அண்டர்ஸ்டாண்டிங்? And what is that understanding? Arthaha means meaning. Those who are well versed, those who know the meanings. Who are they? Those who are well versed in Vedanta, well established in Vedantic wisdom. Even without Vedantic wisdom, I can become no, sir. Theoretically, yes. Show me one person like that, impossible. Why? Because it happens through Vedantic wisdom, through the Shastric knowledge only. Can you become a maths professor without studying mathematics at all? Correct. One Ramanujam can become in 2000 years. One Ramanujam, but one Ramanujam doesn't make up any. In fact, that one Ramanujam is misleading. Yeah. What is the method? The method is 2 in the mind. 2 in the mind, 2 in the fingers length. You have to start and then go step by step and achieve mastery in mathematics. Sunischitaarthaha. Sunischitaarthaha means well established. Well established in Vedantic wisdom. What drives them to gain this Vedantic knowledge? Oh, Vedant. What drives them to gain this Vedantic knowledge? To become Shuddha Sattvaha. The goal is very clear. The purpose of gaining Vedantic knowledge is very, very clear. Vedantic knowledge but a problem la nalla handle panna mudiyuma sir. That is not the ascetics purpose of studying Vedantic knowledge. Maybe if I study this Vedantic knowledge, I'll be more objective. I will be more dynamic. I'll be able to handle situations well. Peace and prosperity. All this will come. The ascetic says, I don't know all this. I don't want any of this. Through Vedanta Vijnana, what is he seeking? Shuddha Sattvaha. Sannyasa Yogat. Sannyasa Yoga. They are united to Sannyasa. Now the mantra. That which is higher than heaven, seated in the cave, shining resplendent, that the ascetics enter. Those ascetics are well established in Vedantic wisdom to become pure sattva through yoga of renunciation. The Vedic vision of life is this. The Vedic vision of life is this. The beauty of Vedas, the beauty of Vedanta is they have penetrated so deeply. Naraka Loka, place of suffering. Mishra Loka, place mixed. Naraka Loka, Mishra Loka, Swarga Loka, Pitru Loka, Brahma Loka, Moksha. This is the grand Vedic Vedantic explanation about life. One is Naraka Loka. Naraka Loka means a place of hell. 95% hell, 5% of break, which looks like pleasure. All of that. That is Naraka Loka. 95% pain. Remember that story, Narakana. What you should remember? That story. What story you should remember? Narakana. What story you should remember? Narakana. 95% pain and 5% of relief. Tea break. Remember that story? Tea break in Naraka. And the 5 minutes of tea break, that is Naraka. This Loka, what we are, is called Mishram. Mishram is mixed. Sometimes intense sorrow, sometimes intense joy, sometimes intense sorrow, sometimes less happiness. You really don't know what to call this. Adu Mishram. Mishram na mixture na artham. Mixed na not well defined proportion, confusion. You really can't say anything about this. At least Swarga, Naraka you can say very clearly. Here Mishra Lokana, you really don't know what to say about it. Habbada, full of happiness, Naka, tons of sorrow. And then you feel, my God, that's it. No way out of the sorrow. Na? Suddenly a joy, a good news. This is Mishram. So, Swarga Loka, Naraka Loka, Mishra Loka, Swarga Loka. Then comes this Swarga Loka can be called as Pitru Loka, Indra Loka, Swarga Loka, ella. Adile gradations. I'm not going into those gradations. Adukullam pona adu Puranic story madri it will enter. Just as Naraka has grades, Swarga also has grades. Gandharva Loka is one grade. Pitru Loka is another grade. Indra Loka is another grade. Swarga Loka is another grade. Idukalla mele Brahma Loka. So there are grades. Now don't take all this literally. Yeah? They have given it figuratively, symbolic. Gandharva anna enna artham? Song and dance and music. Hollywood, Bollywood, Tollywood, என்னெல்லாம் இருக்கு இல்லையா? தமிழ்நாட்டில் இருக்கிறதுக்கு பேரு என்னமோ வுட் அது. அது என்ன வுட் அது? காலிவுட். கர்நாடகா போனா சாண்டல்வுட் இல்லையா? ஒரு வுட். இதெல்லாம் தான் கந்தர்வ லோகா. அப்படி that அப்படி that அப்படி in that drugged state it keeps. Gandharva Loka. Pitru Loka. Pitru Loka is the Pitru Loka means, this is how the Vedas describe it. Hazy. You can, it is like Delhi in February. The first week of February, Delhi. How it will be? You can see, but still you can't see. Something hazily. That's Pitru Loka. That's why it's called Dhuma Marga. Ore poha mandala madri irukuma. Dhuma means like poha in English la. Smoke. Smoke. Path of smoke in a people translate it. Some of the books I have read, they literally translate it as path of smoke. It is not path of smoke. It is, you can see it and yet can't see clearly. Indra Loka is slightly better. Swarga Loka, all these lokas, this, carefully follow, this Naraka Loka, Mishra Loka, Swarga Loka, all are called the path of return. The path of return. The path of return means what? Punarjanma. Again and again and again, you will be going through this cycle. Adanala, don't get excited about this Pitru Loka, this Swarga Loka, this Gandharva Loka. Don't get excited because it is the path of return. Then comes the path of non-return. Kramamukti. Brahmaloka. Ashvalayana is in Brahmaloka now. Kramamukti. Krama na stages. Edu pannalum kramathoda pannanu we say no. There has to be a method in the madness also. No, Shakespeare says no. There has to be a method in the madness too. Kramamukti means that method. Liberation in stages, methodical, gradual liberation. Abdi konja konjama. That is Kramamukti. Brahmaloka. How does one get into this Brahmaloka? A path with spiritual discipline and meditation mingled with desire-ridden meritorious deeds. Again, I repeat, a person does these two. What are the two things he does? Desire-ridden meritorious good deeds plus following the spiritual path also. By these two, what happens? First, he has to exhaust the karma. First, he has to exhaust that karma. To exhaust that karma, he goes to Brahmaloka. Because of the tapas and vairagyam that he has developed, as soon as the punya is exhausted, moksha directly. He will not come back again. That is Kramamukti. This is called liberation in stages. Most of the people say Kramamukti is safer, sir. Because backup, at least there is a backup, no? Plan A, plan B. Some backup is there. So most of the sadhaks, what they do, they make this mistake. They make this mistake. I still remember the very first day I joined the academy. He said, "Take the plunge. Plunge panada," he said. Don't keep testing the water. Take the plunge. Take the plunge. Take the plunge. What is the plunge? Kaivalya Mukti, direct liberation. So, if Upanishad Kaivalya Upanishad na the textbook, the Upanishad that has the subject matter, direct liberation is the subject matter. Not Kramamutti, not the otherwise. That is why he is ridiculing all that and negating all that. Kaivalya Mukti. What is Kaivalya Mukti? He observes the spiritual discipline and meditation with the perfect spirit of Vairagya, making sure that he doesn't entertain any punya. He doesn't entertain any punya karma at all. They attain enlightenment directly now. Krishna also advocates this path only. The 7th, 8th chapter, he says, there is the path of the sun, there is the path of the moon. Path of the moon na Pitruloka, Swargaloka na return. Path of the sun na Brahmaloka. And then Arjuna, there is the third path, which is the direct path. You can be caught in that path of the moon, go in circles. You can be caught in the path of the moon, go in circles. You can take the path of moon and spend a long period of time, unnecessarily wasting time in Brahmaloka. No doubt you will be having company of Brahma and enjoying the bliss and all that. Still it is limited. Still it is a waste of time. Then he says in the Bhagavad Gita, the third path, the direct path. That 3 analysis is the Kaivalya Upanishad puts those 3 stages very clearly. That is why we study the Kaivalya Upanishad. Even though it is not part of the 10 Upanishads, we still study it because it talks about the path of return, the path of no return, the path of direct liberation, Kaivalya Mukti. Kaivalya Mukti. Very difficult is to get convinced about this Kaivalya Mukti. Most people get carried away by what is known as Sadhyo Mukti. Patale Moksha, sir. Patale Pur. That is why they feel that looking at the deity itself is moksha. Going to Shivaloka itself is moksha. Shivaloka, you go to Shivaloka and keep looking at Shiva. That itself is moksha. Go to Vaikunta and keep looking at Narayana himself is moksha. Another person says, no. Kaivalya Upanishad says, even that is not moksha, because even there you need to have a body, and body is subject to death. You have to keep coming. You have to keep coming back. Therefore, the path recommended is Kaivalya Mukti, the direct path. So, the path of return, the path of no return, the direct path. Who gets there? Whoever has the sannyasa yoga. Whoever is firm in the yoga of sannyasa alone get there. Otherwise they make a mistake of some punya karma and Brahmaloka and then moksha. What he says is, don't get tempted by this Brahmaloka and all that. Don't try to do both and all that. For moksha, there should not be a backup plan. Plan A or a plan. There is no plan. There is no plan B. There is no plan C. Plan A itself will not. Plan A itself will not fail. How do you say that? I have said this already. Neha vikramana shosti pratyavayo na vidyate swalpamapyasya dharmasya trayate mahato bhayat. Clear? This is Kaivalya Mukti. With this, we conclude for today. Again, I'll continue next Monday discussing the same mantra. I'll continue discussing the same mantra into more details about whatever we have to discuss. So yeah, with this we conclude for today.